Welcome to the Health Buzz Podcast with Dr. Cindy Ross, PhD. Many medical doctors refer their patients to Dr. Cindy for natural medicine therapies focused on balancing nutrition, vitamins, lifestyle changes, and other natural health approaches.
Hi guys, it's Cindy Ross with the Health Buzz Podcast, and today I am thrilled to introduce a true pioneer in emotional and energetic healing, Richard Flook. Do I get the last name correct?
Yeah, it's great. It's perfect.
Awesome. So Richard and I met through a cancer patient, actually, and I feel so blessed that our paths have crossed. This guy is phenomenal. He has 32 years of experience and thousands of practitioners he's trained worldwide. Richard has impacted hundreds of thousands of lives through his groundbreaking method, and I cannot wait to hear about this, Advanced Clearing Energetics, or ACE. ACE is a powerful approach that helps clients heal by correcting the hidden stress caused by emotional trauma, working beautifully alongside both medical and alternative therapies. Backed by scientific research, Richard's work shines a light on the deep connection between emotional trauma and physical illness, showing how clearing unresolved emotions can lead to profound shifts in health and well-being. So I'm going to let you talk about yourself a little bit, because I just think that you're absolutely incredible, and I'm so happy to have you as part of my collaborative team, especially with my cancer patients. So welcome, Richard. Happy to have you on.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Cindy. Well, I guess I should start off with the reason why I got into all of this. When I was 12, my dad came into my room, sat on the end of my bed, something he would never do. And he couldn't look me in the eye, and he said, "I'm sorry to tell you, last night your mum died." And it was traumatic. It was horrible. And it was on that day in school, and I lived in, you may have come across this place, Bath in the United Kingdom, hence a bit of a funny, plummy voice. And I was walking up this hill, past Bilton Hills, and I went, damn it, I'm going to find out what exactly caused that. In fact, I used the C word, cure, which I'm not really allowed to use. And I really understand that, actually, because I don't cure anybody of anything. I never have, except myself. And it's the same for clients. But we can assist and we can guide. Anyway, I said, I'm going to find out why. And this led me on a journey that culminated in me doing all sorts of weird and wonderful things along the way, and eventually ending up studying energetics, for want of a better word. But that really didn't make much sense, that word. And the reason why I asked that question, rather than just saying, okay, you know, she's got cancer, she had breast cancer, and you know, she did everything she could and she died. I went, no, she had a really horrible divorce. And I'm the middle boy, and she moved a long distance away, 8 to 10 hour drive. It was before plane flights and even good trains at that particular time in the UK. And I just said, hang on a minute, 3 boys, she's up there. We only saw her during traditional holiday times, Christian holiday times, and summer. Surely there's some of that. You know, she felt she was separated, and I went, yeah, there is. And eventually I came across some crazy work by a maverick doctor over in Germany who really is, yeah, he's passed now, but his work, very, very fascinating, which I came across over 32 years ago. And I remember opening up this packet, and it was basically, it talked about the emotional link between breast cancer and, the emotional link between breast cancer and the disease. And I went, it was a brutal separation from children or loved ones. And I went, huh, that's fascinating. I got to learn this. And sure enough, I did. I went and tried to study with that particular doctor where everything was in German. So that was very difficult. So I even learned German. And then, in a nutshell, there was a group of people that broke away from the German doctor, not because he wasn't, he was just a maverick, okay? And his opinions were challenging. And those challenging opinions actually stopped the information getting out there. So I joined another group of people and did study that to the nth degree, plus also a load of other things along the way. And then from there, created something called Advanced Clearing Energetics, because, or ACE for short, because I realized that there were so many different approaches and ways that you could get to the underlying energetic cause. The original way that this doctor had come up with was very clunky, took forever, and really didn't solve the problem. And that's where I am now, with understanding how to find out what was the underlying root behind the client's problem, and then not only just finding it, but then clearing it for good, and then setting up something else on top, which allows them to thrive and just go on the next part of their journey. Does that explain it?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what's crazy is right before you and I met, I kept telling, I was talking to my husband and I was like, you know, it's wild because every breast cancer patient that I have has had some traumatic event, mostly divorce, in their life prior to getting breast cancer. So I started correlating it, and especially with me having RA, getting sick so young, I had childhood trauma that was never really resolved until my adulthood. So I was putting it together, and then all of a sudden you walk into my life, and that's exactly what you're doing. And no one's really putting an emphasis on how we go through trauma in our lives, and one way or another, it's going to come out in our body, and usually it's by chronic illness like cancer. And I'm sure that's what you're seeing, the same patterns.
Totally. It's taken me a long time to piece everything together and make it so that I can explain it very simply. Shall I do that? Because it doesn't really doesn't take a minute. And the way that we can understand it is very straightforward. When we have a shock, and there's a specific criteria that creates cancer, by the way, but we'll talk about any shock. You know, you may open up a letter or something from, Mr. IRS or whatever. and you owe this, and you go, that's a shock. Okay. It's not actually a shock. It's more, how the hell am I going to pay it? It's the other thing. And what else am I going to do? That's the real shock. But when that happens, what then happens is adrenaline is released, cortisol is released, thyroxine is released, estrogen or testosterone are released, usually a combination, most of those depending on whether we're male or female. And the key to all of that is this floods the body with all these stress hormones. And the reason is so that the body can get out or go away or fight the underlying problem. So that's normal. This is normally what happens, and we have a solution. We have a strategy. That's very important to understand that. But what happens if we don't? Like someone walks into the room, your loved one walks into the room and just says, I'm sorry to, I say it in my English traditional accent, I'm sorry to tell you, darling, but I've been sleeping with your best friend for the past 6 months and I really love her and I'm leaving. I've packed my bags. Bye. See you. Now that, if the person had been happily married for 30 years, kids, grandkids, is the type of shock that causes a cancer. Now, why is that relevant? It's because all those hormones get released. You know, often people sit there, go ash and white, and they're in total fear. Now, that normally in an animal sort of goes within about 30 seconds is possibly normal, maybe longer. But human beings, we have this capacity to be able to be reminded continuously with mobile phones, pictures, artifacts, all these other types of things that continuously remind us of that person who's just done something heinous to us. So what then happens is we get re-triggered and re-triggered and re-triggered and re-triggered and re-triggered and re-triggered. And each time we're putting a dump load of stress into our body. Now, just think about it. If you have some beautiful shoes, or you have a car, let's say that with that car, it just starts to get under stress. You don't change your oil, you don't do the other things and do the servicing. It starts to wear out. If you don't look after your shoes, they start to wear out. So it's exactly the same with the body. And what we then see is the body gets worn out. It goes under stress. And that's really the key. That's the bit that most people don't understand. Shocks get repeated over and over again, which then creates symptoms in specific organs, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Then, it's no surprise, is it? But you know what? Stress is not figured by your traditional doctor at all. Yet my belief is, and I've got some confirmation of this, that 80% of all diseases can be beautifully reversed if we just remove the stress. Not all of them, but because some are really genuinely triggered by severe toxicity. But that's what I think we can actually do. And my experience is probably more than that, near a 90 odd. So it can really help. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the first time that Richard and I talked, I have to share this because I had the biggest fear of dying pretty much my entire life up until the past few years, when I really dove into my faith and meditation and finding my purpose. And Richard, you were explaining to me how cancer patients come to you and their biggest fear is dying, right? And like, we don't want to die. We get the C word and we're afraid of dying. And Richard's like, we're all going to die. Like, you're going to die. I can guarantee you that you're going to die. And so Richard, like, just walk me through like 30 seconds of, if a patient comes to you and they're just petrified of dying, they just got a diagnosis, what would you say to them?
This is what I say. I'm going to guarantee something to you, which is what I said to you. You are going to die. And that's quite a shock. And I said, so am I. And so's your loved one. And so's your cat, your dog. Everybody on this planet is not leaving it alive. Do you understand?
It's the best line. It breaks it down so simple. It's so true. Why are we so afraid?
Yeah, well, I think it's because we don't want to leave our loved ones behind. And then I have to address that. And also, we have unfinished business to do on the planet. And with people that have been given a terminal illness, who are genuinely, the body's absolutely riddled, we can get elongated person's life in those situations. But I will say it's challenging. It's very challenging. So we need to address. I actually, with most cancer patients, not all of them, I take them through their death. I know it sounds crazy because I say, what are you so scared of? It'll be beautiful. It'll be wonderful. The thing is, what have you got to do? What unfinished business have you got to address? And we do that. We clear all of that out so that they go, all right, so if I die, I die. And because here's the problem. Remember I talked about that stress, releasing all those 5 basic hormones. If you're sitting there thinking you're going to die, you're going to release all of that. And that then further stresses the body, and then you don't move through it. And then the body's sitting there trying to heal, because there's 2 steps to disease, and we'll talk about that. It's actually 6 stages, but 2 basic steps. When we are sitting there thinking that we're going to die, we're stressing the body even more, and it's useless. So I just take them all the way through it. Here's another key important point. The family and the loved ones are absolutely, fill in the expletive, scared. It's true. And I use the expletive not for emphasis to go, it's horrific. And I have to turn around to the family and walk them through it. Now, if they're religious, they get it. Because I say there's only one energy that will take your loved one. And I even say this to the client. And that, if you are religious, is God. If you're not, well, whatever that other energy is. that energy will take the being, the human, your loved one. And you've got to understand that energy is the only energy that will take your loved one. So if the person's still here, let's use the word God, then God wants them to still be here. They've still got unfinished business to do. So we'll get them all the way through, out the other side, and then God will say, well, you've done that. We'll either take the person or they survive. So it's a really interesting conundrum that I think we all have to address, including me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love your work. I'm already so passionate about it. So Richard sent me his book. It's How I Can Heal, and I'll make sure that I put it in the show notes when we finish. But Richard, you pretty much take people step by step in your book as well, right?
Yeah, it's all about a lady called Marcy who gets a diagnosis of breast cancer, goes to the doctor, and the doctor's really great. And she says, right, we're going to get you into a hospital to have a look to see what's going on and get a proper diagnosis without a biopsy. Interesting thought, isn't it? And then from that, and I explain why, she gets the diagnosis, and then she comes across my first book by the doctor. And so it's based on real work that I've had, real clients.
What was your first book, Richard?
It's called Why Am I Sick? It was in 2008. And the original version has got me going, like, no, like this, why am I sick? And then it was taken on by Hay House. And so there's another one, and that you can read on a weekend. It's a 2-day read. But the first one, not very well edited, needs a lot more work, but I still love it. There's lots of information inside that one, including a load of work on psychological issues. I also talk about the jibbity jab jab. We just this was pre the cough years. So yeah, it's really quite comprehensive. And this one I've got a copy of it here, was really me going, okay, how does this truly work? So how does disease and energetics really work? Because I was just fed up with many people just turning around and saying, well, they're only clearing emotions. And I was going, yeah, but I get great results. And hand on heart, sometimes it doesn't work, okay? Absolutely. And a lot of times it does. And I wanted to go, why? I wanted to understand why and how. And then also there's one other key factor within the book. So I take Marcy through 5 steps. I'll cover those in a sec. And within that, I never dismissed saying it was just about clearing the emotions. There are so many other things that people can do. I think the obvious one is just nutrition, right? Get rid of all the packaged garbage and start feeding yourself real food. That's an obvious one. But ironically, that's not the first thing you should do. The first thing you should do every single time is clear the trauma that triggered the disease off in the first place. So that's really what that book is about. The first one's a bit more of a deep dive into the understanding of why we get sick. This one was really commissioned by Hay House Publishing to answer that question: how can I heal? And these 5 steps. Shall I go into those? Is that
go for it?
Good segment? Okay, so this is what I understood. Was we need to clear out the stressful event that triggered the emotion in the first place. Something I coined, which is the you-din moment. And ironically, that's just stuck around the world. The truth was, I coined the phrase you-din, which I'll tell you what that is. It stands for something that's unexpected, dramatic, isolating, and where we have no strategy for dealing with it. You-din. Was because I couldn't remember that criteria, so I just went, oh, acronym, that'll be easier, and it just stuck, which is quite funny. Now they call it in Norway an Odin. Anyway, there we are. And so I was talking, I'll tell you what that actually means. This lady, remember I talked about earlier, where her husband walks in, happily married with kids. unexpected. It says I'm gonna, sleeping with your best friends. Let's say that's unexpected. And it really has happened. I've dealt with clients with that. Very dramatic 30 years. It's not as if they've been together for 6 months, is it? Isolating the one person that she would want to speak to above anybody else in her life would be her true bestie, her best friend. Not happening. No strategy. She's not going to sit down with her husband on a Thursday and have meatballs and spaghetti for dinner. It's not going to happen either, because she said, "Oh, you go off and have a nice life. I'm getting onto a dating website, and I'm going to find myself another lover." Come on, seriously. So no strategy. She didn't know how to deal with it. Could be a strategy, but that's not the one that's going to find the solution. And those Udin moments are the things that trigger those hormones, but land in a specific organ directed at solving the underlying problem. Every single organ starts to react, specific organs, in order that we can heal ourselves. Come back to that in a second. Second point, so that's clear the Udin. Second one is deal with the toxicity. That's also toxic chemicals in our environment, and also toxicity as far as toxic relationships. Third one is inflammation. Again, deal with foods and other things that are continuously inflaming the body, like linoleic acid from seed oils is a great example, and get rid of those out of our diet, but also deal with the things that are continuously triggering us off in our limbic brain, right in the center. And those are the fight, flight, freeze, and there's two more which most people are unaware of, called fiend and what's the last one? Fiend and I can't remember. There's two more. And then the fourth one, I should know. I damn well did all the research in that. The fourth one is change your environment. So many people, and I've had clients, they're in a horrible job with a horrible boss, and they don't like what they're doing, and that's actually caused the disease. And then we get them better, and they go back straight into that environmental situation, I guess, or they're living in the same house, so that environment has to be changed. And the fourth one, I love this one, absolutely love this one. It's called the next moment, which is all about raising your energy. And there's all sorts of things that you can do, but you can't go from this horrible, stressful state to raising your energy, which is the beautiful place that we can be. I call it a next moment. And the next moment is the antithesis of the Udin moment. It stands for something that's normal, totally expected, where it connects us with the people that we care and love, and where we have a strategy. And the body has actually created inside the disease the absolute antithesis of the Udin moment. Go figure. I mean, when we are truly spiritual beings, and the next moment is connected with the Udin moment, but we don't see it, do we? And that's the other thing with cancer patients. I'm sure you've seen this, is cancer patients, in fact, every disease, but cancer patients, I say, what is the gift when we get to that point? What has it given you? And every single one has said, and they go off and they talk and they just, it's taken me closer to God, or closer to people I love and care about, or it's made my life purposeful. So there's always that.
I love these 5, and these are pretty easy, to remember. I'm going to make sure that I put them in the show notes as well. It's funny that you talk about that next moment. Yesterday I sat with a cancer patient, and she was stage 2 colon, caught it in time, and she's thriving. She's doing well. Had some markers that were showing inflammation in her recent labs. That's why she contacted me. So we're more on like the preventative side now to make sure that there's not a reoccurrence. And I looked at her and I was like, you should be really counting your blessings, because you caught this at an early stage, but it also redirected your whole entire thought process when it comes to taking care of your health and your life and being proactive. And she goes, 1,000%. She was like, it literally is a blessing. And I always say that with like with my RA, rheumatoid arthritis, I always say it is the best blessing in my life. Even though it's a terrible disease, it makes me so very present every single moment, never taking life for granted, appreciating every second of every day and using it for good and helping other people. And so that's what I always try to remind my cancer patients is, hey, this is it's a blessing. It's a wake up call. And I call them, it's like your body's been whispering and now it's screaming at you. And it's a good wake up call. It doesn't have to be a death sentence.
Absolutely. And the thing is, you see, when we look at history, 100 years ago, people didn't have cancers. Go figure. They just didn't. It was very, very rare. And heart disease, by the way, it was very rare, even probably rheumatoid arthritis. However, we see what's gone on in the world and super toxic, and we could go into all the political ramifications of that, but I don't want to. Not here, because you probably covered that before. But the point is, and you see it in the blood. Absolutely. You see the toxicity showing up in the blood, and we need to clear all that out, which is that second stage. I think the real key thing to understand is how the body is behaving and why it's doing that. And that next moment, as you were talking about it, I came across this whole idea of the next moment some time ago. What I didn't realize, and I'll say this to you, is how unbelievably beautiful, and I use those words. They're sort of, there's a name for that, isn't there? It's not an oxymoron, but whatever. Unbelievably beautiful the next moment is, and it's inside of us. And when someone says 1,000%, it's so true. It's absolutely true. I suppose the only other way that people could experience it would be jumping off the side of a bridge on a rubber band doing a bungee jump, because you're taken within an inch of your life, and then you come away and you just go, I survived death. And that's what it's almost like. Although,
Powerful.
yeah. And the other thing about cancer diagnosis is when I'm working with a cancer client, one of the things I do is they find a lump, they do something, and then they go and see the doctor and the oncologist, and they say, oh well, I'm really sorry to tell you, but you've got cancer. And, a lot of clients turn around and say, why are they so how could you say, so cold? Well, I wouldn't want to do that job for love nor money. Seriously, those poor doctors. But whatever, they have to be cold, because how do they tell someone you've got a death sentence? And really, the end of the day, that's the way the media, that's the way the medical profession have portrayed cancer, that it's instant death. And it's just crazy, because it's not. Like I said, years ago, people survived. Now, what's the difference? And we could argue a point. We do know that there are 3 types of therapeutic interventions, maybe a little bit of hormone therapy, chemo, radio, and surgery. What's going on here? Which is a question I questioned with my mother's death. How come she had the best care in the world, and yet she's not here? And even the oncologist said, well, yeah, she's got a good chance of survival. And I went, but how come she didn't? It's an interesting one, and a conundrum. Again, another one of those.
I have a patient right now. She came to me as a general wellness. I found the cancer when the doctors told her everything was fine 2 weeks prior. Found the cancer, and I always say, as long as you catch it early enough and it's not impeding an organ, you have every chance in hell to make it. Once it starts impeding an organ, it's an uphill battle. And I'm not saying it's a end all for sure, but it's going to definitely be a little bit more of a challenge, right? And her son was kind of just saying, he sees people because, they're doing the ivermectin and the fenbendazole and that whole regimen. And he's like, I'm on these groups and people are surviving, and his mom's deteriorating. So he has those questions, and it's like, I try to say, like, I wish I had an answer for you, and it's like, it's just, it's very emotional right now for the entire family. And so I'm excited to be able to share this with them, our podcast today, because I think it will be really helpful.
Should we talk a little bit about why do clients deteriorate?
I would
Because I
love
think
that.
that's a really important point. I've got a client at the moment. She wrote to me yesterday and said, I don't think I'm going to survive this because I've lost 40 pounds and I haven't got the energy to deal with this. And I got on the on a call with her immediately, and I said, look, when the body heals, it needs the energy in order to do that. If you don't have any energy inside your system, it can't. Now I can't. I have to be careful with this because although she probably would let me have permission, I haven't asked her on this particular situation. But she had breast cancer. We dealt with that, cleared. Then she found out an issue with her neck, and part of her vertebrae had destroyed, and she had an operation. And then the oncologist gave her radiation, and she just plummeted. Anyway, so I couldn't help that. You know, if a client decides they're going to do that, what do I do? That's they're being persuaded by the medical profession at that stage. And by the way, just for as a caveat, since when did bombarding your cells with one of the most dangerous chemicals on planet Earth, or thing on planet Earth, be a good idea? Same with chemo. Since when did that really be a
I
good
always
idea?
say you cannot take a toxic body and throw toxins on top of it and expect a great outcome. It's not going to work.
Absolutely not. So let's just go back to another key important point. When a person's under stress, you'd understand this, they're in the sympathetic nervous system, high sympathetic nervous system, and usually have quite a lot of energy, but they're also using up their reserves. Then when they start to heal, all of the energy goes into their gut system, and that energy is then being used in order that they can actually have all the necessary energy in order to complete the healing. And this means that their brain power disappears, their musculoskeletal system starts to run down, they don't have any energy, they sleep a heck of a lot, they get hot. Sounds just normal, like influenza, doesn't it? Anyway, so it's the same type of thing. And with her particular condition, she had a problem where she said, I'm not going to survive this. This actually affects the lungs. We can explain a little bit about that. It's like tuberculosis. We can't actually survive. But there were lots of tuberculosis around the war. So people had to breathe more intensely. So they produced more alveoli in order to survive the problem. And that's exactly what happened to her. At the same time, a lot of water came into the lungs, and she only had a quarter of a lung, so she was on oxygen. So all of this was going on, and I was able to get her all the way through, pull her out of all of that. Her lungs, all the water came out. So they also have 2 taps inside there to pull all the fluid out. Now, this fluid is water. This fluid is life force. It's full of protein. And this protein was being taken out of the body. Now, the body knows that it needs this protein to complete the healing. It's food, right? It's energy. And most people are going, well, that's crazy. But it sounds crazy, but this is inflammation. So now she's got her lung capacity back. She's no longer got the tubes in the lungs, but all that fluid's been taken out. She's losing weight massively. And I've said, right, now we need to push energy into your system at a very, very high rate. And that's exactly what we're doing now. She survived the cancers. Okay, 3 of them, all in one following the other, following the other. Now, the only thing that will take her out is she hasn't got the energy to complete this. And also, she's got no energy inside her body. She needs energy externally to go inside. And the reason why that is important, because she's now right in the parasympathetic, and she's living in that, rather than what we do is we go through sympathetic and parasympathetic. Does this make sense? You'd understand that on a medical basis.
That's exactly where I'm at with this patient right now. She's had chest tubes put in. They've been taking the fluid out. Now she's depleted. She's not
Yeah.
wanting to eat, not wanting to drink. So she has no energy going back in. That's exactly where we're at right now. And she's tired. She's
And
ready to give up. And her family's just like, no. And I'm no, let's not give up. Let's keep fighting. But she's depleted right now.
well, I don't even use the word fight. I say you feed. Okay? This is not a fight. You feed. Feed this person. Let's get a tube down. Many medical doctors won't do that, but sometimes we get some. Let's get a tube in. Let's put continuously good quality foods. Okay, normal food, and liquidize it, really good quality, and put it down right into that stomach where it's going there regularly. As soon as the client then goes, oh, they'll come back. They need sugar, by the way. That's what they need. They need glucose, but not awful sugar, not contaminated GMO garbage, real sugar like glucose from honey or maple syrup. And they also need other food to counter all of that, to give them all the vital minerals and nutrients that have come out of the fluid that was taken off their lungs. The body's so intuitive, so crazy. It can survive this. That's not the issue. What happens is all our interfering and going, oh, we're going to die, everything. That's the bit that really causes a lot of the problem. And medical interventions like the tubes, yeah, I've seen it also in the belly as well, where they've just, with the ascites, just taken all of that beautiful fluid, all that structured water, all that energy out, and wonder why the client just goes and shrinks and dies of cachexia and doesn't actually die of any of the cancers. And you've seen it.
Well, and I always say you don't die of cancer. You die because your body's not healthy enough to handle what's happening. And so that's where I come in and trying to restore the body back to a state of balance, keeping the terrain nice and healthy. So I take care of the blood work part, you take care of the mind part. It's a perfect combination.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
gonna share our podcast today with the family and maybe getting a feeding tube is an answer, because I feel
Feeding
like if
tube.
her body can thrive and she's getting the nutrients in, because right now she cannot see past that. So if she can get the nutrients in, I think she could absolutely come out of this.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen it. I've had clients do it. And I will hand on my heart. We've had clients that, I say we, I've had clients that haven't. So let's put this as a caveat. It's challenging. This is not something, oh, it's all beautiful and lovely and, we're doing a big sales job. No, we're dealing with a person's life.
That's right.
So this is not a sales job. There could be, my client could go. And I'm going to come back to my original statement. The only energy, or the only thing that can take, it's not even a thing, that takes a person away is God. Right.
God.
So let's do everything in our power. And I do not understand why the medical profession will not put down feeding tubes. We find people that will, and also amino acids and minerals, everything that the body needs in order to
Thrive.
stay in life.
That's right. That's right. Richard, we have a few minutes left. I wanted to touch base. I didn't even share with you guys. Richard is in France, and you actually put on retreats where people can come to you, correct?
Yes, we're just starting in France to do that. We've got one coming up fairly soon. But this is the real thing that I want to do, is I want to be working with clients face to face, because I can definitely assist them massively in pulling them out of where they are to where they want to go. But also, if there's enough people, I'll come to where we need to go. Because I've got a client at the moment, she turned around and says, I can't come to France because I'm on crutches. Other ones will be in wheelchairs. And, if we can get to these people to help them, or even work on platforms like this, video conferencing, it's just can really do a heck of a lot.
I'm excited for you. I think that's incredible work. Richard, share with our audience what it looks like to work with you, how they get in touch with you, and then I'll make sure that I put it in the show notes as well. But what are the next steps if they decide that they want to work with you?
You can go to richardflook.com, go to diary, and book an appointment with me. We do a first sort of free Well, I do a first 30 minutes free, but honestly, we're on the phone for a lot longer than that. Remember,
Do the
with
same.
something as challenging as cancer, yeah, I don't cut it off after 30 minutes. I want the client to get as much information as they possibly can, and have some special time with me, because I think that that's the most important thing, that they can ask questions and go, is this possible? Can we do it? So on and so forth. And then working with me is like all of these things. It takes a heck of a lot to work with a cancer patient. You've actually said it's very heavy.
It's
It
heavy.
truly is. And people have really they don't realize how challenging it is. We talked about the oncologist. Those the oncologists I've met are lovely, genuine people, and they're so cold because they can't, that it's so challenging. I get very involved with my clients, and it really is. There's some nights that I don't know, I'm up in the middle of the night trying to figure it out,
Same.
and it's
Same.
highly emotional on my behalf. So it takes a lot out of me, like it does working. You know this. So it's I charge quite a bit. I want people to understand that it's not like €50 or $50 an hour. I'm sorry. We have to, there's a heck of a lot that goes in before, during, and after every single session. And usually if I'm working with a cancer patient, then I take them all the way through those 5 steps, and I'm there with them along the journey, working with lovely people like you as well, to take them all the way through this whole journey. Like my client over in Idaho, she, I get on the phone on occasions with her, or even longer than that, and we'll spend an hour. And I'm just pulling her out of the cesspool that she's of thinking that she's got herself into, or contaminated thinking, pulling her out and back online again. So yeah, it's
And it's like I told you the other day, I'm so thankful to have you as part of the team, and because it is heavy, right? And I'm working over here trying to connect the dots, especially with the labs and studying their pathology and everything, that having someone like yourself with such a knowledge base in this area, I feel like my patient is in the best of hands having a team working together. So I am forever thankful that we have a communal patient. And I know that I really feel that we're going to do amazing things. And maybe we can even do a retreat together and bring you here, because I just think you would be an amazing asset.
absolutely, and we've seen already, we take the blood work, we can actually understand where the client is. We never really talked about how a specific organ gets linked, but we can actually see why that organ reacts in the way that it does. And then from the blood work going, okay, this is not what the medical people are saying. This is actually healing. And these are the symptoms you're going to go through. And we can actually clock it and use that data to see what's going on. Now that one little piece gives hope in a way that I really honestly think most cancer patients, when they hear those words, are going, it's healing. And they're like, so I'm feeling really horrible and I've got no energy because I'm healing. Yeah, just like influenza. Remember
Mhm.
when you've had influenza, you sit in
Exactly
bed and
right.
go, oh boy, I think I'm going to die.
It's
Because
it's
your
this
heart's,
it's the same when I'm working with people with gut health. You're gonna feel worse
yeah,
before you start feeling better, because your body's getting rid of all those toxins. And so I always tell people, you're gonna feel like you have flu-like symptoms, and you're gonna feel like shit. Like you're just gonna feel like shit for a little while. And then it's gonna get better.
yeah.
And just hang in there and be patient. Trust the process.
Absolutely. And that's the key thing. No one likes feeling ill, including me or
Same.
you. So,
Yeah.
that's
Same.
yeah, that's the way it
Richard,
works.
well, I hope that you will come back on, because I feel like we have so much to talk about, and we could talk about hours. Every time I get on the phone with you, I feel like you're like my kindred spirit that I can nerd out with about cancer, because I do. I love meeting in the minds to be able to brainstorm on patients. So thank you for your work, and I greatly appreciate you coming on and being a guest.
And thank you for your amazing work too. I've seen how things actually work with what you're doing. And
Thank
we
you.
we now have data that we can actually use. And this is just incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Thank you so much. Well, you have it's night. Is it nighttime? It's coming on night.
No, it's actually only
Afternoon?
24 o'clock in the afternoon here.
Oh, nice.
My French house, so this is real sort of French stone.
I love it. I love
the
it.
back.
What part of France are you in?
We're near, I think most people would understand this. We're near Bordeaux. We're about an hour and a quarter, no, hour and three quarters west of, I'm saying this wrong, east of Bordeaux. So
Okay.
if you look at the map of Bordeaux, it's map of France, you can actually see Bordeaux. And we're in a rural part of France on
Well,
purpose.
I love it. I'll
On
make sure
purpose.
that I'll put your retreat information in the show notes as well. So if anybody wants to come visit your beautiful countryside, they will have all the information.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Fantastic.
Richard.
Thank you. Thanks,
Have a great
Cindy.
day. Bye-bye.